Imagine a universe with thousands of worlds containing various realities. And among these worlds, there is one of extreme importance, a world known as Dolores. The chronicles of this world will decide the fate of the universe. But even deeper than that is how you will see the decisions of a small group of different people decide the fate of the story I'm about to tell you. Welcome to the Chronicles of Dolores. The year of the universe is impossible to put in a term that can be understood by mortals. All that's known is that it has existed for a very long time, and it was all created by a powerful being known as the Judicator. He oversees all the worlds, ensuring they live out their timelines, and then ultimately creating new worlds when the old ones have died off naturally. As the number of worlds grew in size, the Judicator realized that he would need help to manage it all, and so he offered his favorite human from one of his worlds a job to work for him. This human accepted the name of being the Everywhere Man. The Everywhere Man was in charge of watching over half of the universe and reporting his findings to the Judicator. Unbeknownst to the Judicator, however, was that the Everywhere Man had fallen in love with a human from his favorite world, a human named Rudy, a genius inventor who helped in making her world the closest world to being called perfect amongst the universe. The Judicator and Everywhere Man maintained a healthy universe for a long time. That is until a man known as Zarif became strong enough to use dimensional magic. Zarif was a wizard that had mastered the dark arts of magic in various realities. The Judicator and Everywhere Man were well aware of who Zarif was, but never once before had considered him a threat. But he was deemed a threat the day that he appeared before the Judicator with power that had never been seen before. Caught by surprise, the Judicator was nearly killed by Zarif, but the Judicator emerged victorious with the help of the Everywhere Man's power and Rudy's inventions. Afterwards, as a precaution, the Judicator decided to kill all variants of Zarif to ensure a Zarif would never catch him by surprise again. However, this precaution soon became insufficient to the Judicator. He decided it was safer to simply erase the universe and rebuild it all over again. He offered the Everywhere Man to remain by his side while he did, keeping him safe, but the Everywhere Man refused. He was not willing to give up Rudy, so he decided to flee. He recruited the help of a genius who lived in the same world as Rudy. He was known as the smartest man alive. They began working on a device together that could mask the presence of a world from the eyes of the Judicator. However, they needed time to finish the device, and so, because of this, the Everywhere Man gathered all the strongest fighters of the best world to fight against the Judicator. It was an epic battle, but it ended in the death of Rudy, while the Everywhere Man was helpless to stop it. After her death, the battle quickly came to an end. Rudy's last words to the Everywhere Man was that he needs to find a weak and dead world, one that the Judicator will not think to look for. The Everywhere Man fled with the smartest man alive, finding a distant and dead world. They took the formula from the smartest man alive's orb and they applied it to creating Pandora, a goddess, instructing her to create the world known as Dolores, and then erasing her memory of how she was made afterwards. Pandora proceeds to create the world as she saw fit. This world is the world that the Chronicles of Dolores would begin. The Everywhere Man and the smartest man alive had a large disagreement, however, about what to do next, and so they decided to split up and wait to see what happens with this world. The Everywhere Man kept the device that they had finished together, the device that keeps the world hidden from the eyes of the Judicator. This device is known as the Everywhere Clock. Pandora created the world, It consisted of various continents. She'd created gods for each of the continents, but decided to live primarily in the continent known as Ivana. Her two most known gods for Ivana was the god of light, Uranus, and the goddess of the moon, Sayara. Pandora had forbidden the gods from having romantic affairs with each other, but Uranus and Sayara did not obey this law. They fell in love with each other, and while their affair was going on, there was a human couple known as Doria and Frankfurt who wanted to have a baby, but they were not able to conceive. They prayed to Pandora, begging her for help, and Pandora liked their prayer, so she blessed Doria with a baby in the womb, a miracle. When the child was born, Doria and Frankfurt decided to name the baby Dolores in honor of Pandora. Little did they know, this baby girl would have powers blessed to her by Pandora. Meanwhile, Sayara and Uranus had a baby of their own in secret, a baby boy they named Zarif. Pandora finds out about this, and she battles Uranus and Sayara. She defeats them and punishes both of them. And then afterwards, she takes Zarif away from them and drops him off in the mortal realm. She placed a curse upon him that made it to where anyone he loves would die. Zarif lived his life growing up on the streets, just trying to survive, not having a family nor knowing what happened to his parents. Dolores also had an unfortunate childhood, as her mother died of disease and her father was arrested for breaking the law within the Daxam Empire. Dolores and Zarif ended up meeting on the streets, and of course they fell in love with each other. They broke Frankfurt out of jail, and then proceeded to battle against the corrupt emperor of the land, but it ended in Frankfurt being killed. Zarif and Dolores prayed for a god to save his life. Pandora appeared and brought Frankfurt back to life, but forced him to serve her and her goals. Frankfurt was ordered to kill Zarif because he was growing to be too dangerous. This was the moment in which she had discovered that Zarif was immortal because of her curse, because he does not love himself. Zarif and Dolores are defeated, but they survive. Pandora and Frankfurt leave them alone as they go into the celestial realm. This is when the Everywhere Man finally decides to appear to Pandora, telling her that he needs her help to keep the world hidden from the being called the Judicator. Pandora began having meetings with the gods to figure out what to do. Pandora gives Frankfurt the duty of being the overseer of the Everywhere Clock. His job to hide the Everywhere Clock somewhere and make sure that nobody is able to travel across the ocean to other continents from other continents, to ensure that nobody would find the clock. Frankfurt, known as the Overseer, took his job very seriously. Over time, Dolores and Zarif became strong enough together to actually defeat Pandora in battle. Pandora was killed and taken to the spirit realm. Her dead body has been left underground in a place called Divania in Ivana. Her spirit, however, sent a message into the stars. A message that she saw only when she died. Zarif and Dolores celebrated their victory, but it quickly turned sour as Zarif's demon child that he created, known as Zyra, manipulated things to where it looked like Dolores was betraying Zarif. This sparked a battle between them. Dolores fled and began giving her powers in the form of a mark to various women across the continent of Ivana. Her mark would contain her magical powers and her memories of her entire life journey. This mark would be transferred to descendants of those who have it, and will be triggered whenever Dolores decides she wants it triggered. Dolores was secretly pregnant with Zarif's baby. Because of fear as to what Zarif would do, she gave her baby to a woman named Ronnie, who she had given her mark. Ronnie took the baby and her young daughter Tora out to the sea and sailed to Dornia. The mark of Dolores protected her from the Overseer. Dolores was tracked down by Zarif and Zyra, leading to a final battle. It ended with Dolores casting a spell that sealed away herself and Zarif in ice cocoons. Zyra tried to break Zarif out, but he wasn't able to. After centuries had passed, Zarif finally figured out how to free Dolores and Zarif from the ice shells. Dolores managed to get away afterwards, and she tried to ally with the descendants of those she marked with her power long ago. Zarif, however, alongside his son Zyra, proceeded to destroy the Renalia kingdom and form their own army, the Republic of Zarif. Zarif begins invading the entire continent of Ivana with a more sad goal in mind. Zarif wants the world to end, so his goal is to find the Everywhere Clock that he has learned about and destroy it, so that the Judicator can find this world and destroy it, ending his suffering as he himself cannot die since he is immortal. Zarif now finds himself to be mounting a siege against Divania, a city that may have the answers to where the Everywhere Clock is being held. This is where the first Chronicle of Dolores has ended for now. The players of this story trapped by Zarif with no way out, stalling him from taking over Divania with his army for as long as they can. We now get into the second Chronicle of Dolores. The smartest man alive, who now lived in Dornia, isolating himself from the Everywhere Man, was inspired by the final message Pandora gave out before she died into the stars. He took it upon himself to use the message to track down those chosen by Pandora to be special in saving the world. He tracked down each of them as a child and took them to his airship, where he proceeded to give each of them a vaccine for a future issue depicted in the stars of Pandora. Ronnie, upon making it to Dornia, took the son of Dolores and Zarif, who was named Calamity, and her own daughter Tora, to a new home and raised them together. They were a happy family, enjoying the peace of the land. Ronnie died of illness, leaving Calamity and Tora alone with each other. They fell in love, and before long they had their own family now. Tora had inherited the mark of Dolores that was given to her by her mother Ronnie. And so she began having dreams of the past of Dolores' life with Zarif. She quickly grew infatuated with the idea of Zarif, the Dark Lord. She told Calamity of the tragic love story between his lost parents. Tora's love for Zarif grew, while Calamity's curiosity about his family continued. The two of them lived for centuries on their own land, neither of them aging thanks to Calamity's power to keep everyone around him immortal. They ruled over their land peacefully, while conjuring up a plan to bring Dolores and Zarif here so that he could meet them. They formed a group called the Legion of Destiny. Their idea was to find women in Dornia and try to replicate the mark of Dolores on them so that they could have enough of a connection to summon Dolores and Zarif there. They kidnapped thousands of women for this experiment. The chosen players of the Chronicle were among these women that were kidnapped, prisoners to the evil Dr. Calculation. They were the only woman to survive the procedure because of the vaccine that the smartest man alive gave them long ago. Despite them surviving, it worked. They now had artificial marks of Dolores, so the Legion of Destiny forced them to help in making a portal to summon Zarif and Dolores. However, only Dolores came through the portal. Tora acted like she was thrilled to see her, but when Dolores lowered her guard, Tora used her magic to absorb Dolores entirely, taking her powers for herself. Calamity and their son, Zachary, were both outraged by this. Tora revealed that she only wanted Dolores dead and to take Zarif for herself as a husband. Tora proceeded to kill Calamity and knock her son Zachary unconscious. And then she started to reveal her true plan to everyone, including the players, that she wanted to take over all of Dornia while waiting for Zarif to arrive so that she could impress him and marry him. It's shown that she has the Everywhere Clock in her possession, explaining her confidence that Zarif will come here eventually. The chosen players of this chronicle are saved by the God of Balance as he helps them escape the lair of the Legion of Destiny. They teleport away through a magical tree of teleportation created by another god long ago. However, when they get to the other side, They discover that they are in an awful place, a magical forest known as Ovilius Abyss, a place filled with monsters pretending to be friends, and a sacred tree whose name is Morven. Ovilius herself is in charge, and with the help of her lords of the Abyss, she intends to destroy the world. And the only thing in her way right now are the players of this second chronicle, known by the world as the Promises of Pandora. You just listened to a basic summary of this campaign. Thank you so much for listening, and stay tuned in for our future sessions.